This textile is only beginning to take shape. It isn't finished. Much of the red space that is still visible right now will eventually be covered. More pieces of fabric will be added, grays, blacks, layers, stitches, fragments overlapping one another. There will be less and less red. And I think that is exactly how it should be. Because when I look at this red, I think about energy, blood, life, creativity, about something primal that exists within a human being before the world begins telling us who we are supposed to become. And I begin to wonder what remains of a person after 30 years spent mostly fulfilling obligations. When we are children, the world is enormous. Try for a moment to remember the beginning. I don't know if you remember that feeling, but back then, time almost didn't exist. A small child does not yet live inside time the way the adult does. The child knows almost nothing. The child does not measure life. A child experiences it. They don't wonder whether something is sensible, whether it is worthwhile, whether it is leading somewhere. They don't even know yet which things are supposedly impossible. Quite the opposite. A little boy can stand in the middle of the field, surrounded by vastness of the world, and believe that he is somebody, until later, when someone politely explains to him that he is supposed to stand in line. But back then, when time does not yet exist, everything seems possible. A piece of fabric can become a dress, a flag, the entire landscape. A stick is a sword, a paddle an ocean. A child does not wonder whether what they are doing is productive. They simply look, touch, try, imagine. Sometimes I think there is something almost divine in this. And I don't mean necessarily religious sense. I mean a human being who has not yet been enclosed within a definition of themselves. They do not yet know who they are, and because of that, they can be almost anything. But later, very slowly, the world begins to shrink. First, we learn that certain things are not appropriate. Then we learn that we are good at some things and bad at others. There are judgments, comparisons, rewards, expectations, obligations. And that is why there will be less and less red in this textile. I will cover it piece by piece. There will be more gray, more black, more rectangles, repetitive stitches, not because the red disappears. It will remain underneath, but it will become more and more difficult for it to find its way out. Because adulthood arrives. We have to earn money, maintain a home, take care of a family, be responsible. And there is nothing wrong with any of that. The problem begins, perhaps, when obligations stop becoming part of life and begin to occupy the whole of life, especially work. You can find yourself inside an organization that will never say, "That's enough. You've done enough today. Now go and live." I'm sorry, I had to laugh in that part. An organization can always take a little more. One more hour, one more phone call, one more day, even a weekend. A little more energy, and we give it. Sometimes we do it because we are conscientious. Sometimes because we are afraid. We want to do our work well. We want people to be able to depend on us. The organizations can become very good at building up on that. And the years pass. We become very good at performing our tasks. We know whom to call. We know which document to fill out. We know how to solve the next problem. We know what people expect from us. These gray and black fragments on the textile represent exactly that. They are not bad. Some of them are even beautiful. They can be orderly. They have structure. Each one has its place, just like obligations, just like the roles we take on over the years, except that one fragment is added to another, layer upon layer, year upon year, and there is less and less of red. And then one day, a much more difficult question may appear: what do I actually want? And suddenly, we don't know. Maybe we are 50, maybe 60. We look at ourselves and may wonder, where is the person I once was? What used to make me curious? What did I want to do? What did I want to see? What did I want to create? I don't think we become less intelligent over the years. I think something else happens. Our attention gets directed into a very narrow corridor: work, bills, shopping, obligations, problems, tomorrow, next week, the next paycheck. And we become extraordinarily efficient inside that corridor. We can walk through it for 20 or 30 years. And after a while, we may forget that there are doors on both sides. When I look at this textile, I see something like that corridor. The dark fragments are beginning to connect. One leads into another. Some are almost geometric, others overlap. But between them, strange forms begin to appear. A little like flowers, although I don't really want to call them flowers. They are too irregular, too heavy, a little wild, as though they refuse to submit to rectangles. Perhaps they are what remains despite everything. Some kind of possibility. Something that could never be completely organized. This is why creating has become so important to me. I don't have to be a great artist. It isn't because someone has to see what I make. It isn't because I need to sell it. Perhaps it is exactly the opposite. I take a piece of fabric, thread, a needle, and for a little while, nobody tells me what to do. I can lead the red thread this way, or somewhere completely different. I can make a stitch and decide I don't like it. I can pull it out. I can leave it. I can put another stitch over it. I can change my mind. I can begin again. I can even do something that absolutely makes no sense. And the most beautiful thing is that I don't have to know where is it going. I can simply ask, what happens if I do it this way? That is exactly the question a child asks. What happens if? That red thread, which sometimes emerges from between the black and gray fragments, is exactly that. Not a decoration, but something alive. Energy, blood, creativity. Something that has been covered by layer after layer over all those years, but has never completely disappeared. Perhaps then growing older is not about trying to become a child again. That's impossible. We know too much now. We have lived through too much. We have scars, memory, loss, responsibility. Now is a good time to recover something that once came naturally to us: curiosity, wonder, experimentation, the right to do things that do not have to lead anywhere, the right to change our minds and to open doors, the right to waste an hour on a beautiful idea that is completely impractical. A human being never truly stops being that creature full of possibility. Perhaps it simply sits very quietly for many years, covered by obligations, fatigue, work, the roles we have to take on, and a thousand things we are supposedly required to do. So now, what about this red fabric? In a moment, I will cover more of it. I will place another gray piece over it, then a black one. I will add stitches, another layer, but I won't cover it completely. Here and there, I will leave an opening. The red thread will pass between the layers. In some places, it will disappear. In other places, it will emerge again. And at some point, it will stop being obedient. It will make a loop, turn where it isn't supposed to turn, escape the structure. And that is what this textile is really about. It is about a human being who, over the years, becomes covered by life. And yet, somewhere underneath it all, something remains alive. Until one day we sit down at the table, we pick up a piece of fabric, we thread a needle, we make the first stitch, and something very small begins to open. Not a new life, perhaps an old life that had been there all along, under the gray, under the black, under the obligations, a thin red thread. And then the world, which for so many years have been growing smaller and smaller, begins again, very slowly, to become larger.